Bam! What's going on, folks? MC is in the house. My name is Justin Garcia, also known as Master Chairman. Welcome to the Warrior Stream. I am here every Wednesday at noon Eastern Standard Time. I get on here, pick a topic, and talk about it, and we have a good time while doing it. If you guys have not yet signed up to my email list, taking part in or taking advantage of the Three Roads Tribe, which is one of my free communities, all that stuff is in the description, no matter whether you're watching on YouTube, one of my Facebook channels, on X, wherever it is available to you there. So I would definitely suggest you go and check that out. So what do we have on the agenda today? We're talking about NPCs, right? We're talking about NPCs, non-playable characters. You know, it was a couple of years ago, and I actually had to look this up at some point. What is it that an NPC is supposed to be? And I got a definition. And it says that NPC stands for non-playable character, a term originating from video games to describe characters that are not controlled by players but by the game's AI. In internet slang, NPC has been adopted as a derogatory term to imply that a person is unthinking or unoriginal, like that video game character who operates on pre-programmed responses and lacks individuality or critical thinking skills. This usage, and again, this is an online definition, this usage is often a way to dismiss or criticize people who are perceived as conforming to popular opinions or not engaging in independent thought. Now, I would say that's a pretty good take on it. And ironically, the internet presents that as like this thing that we shouldn't call people that because, everybody's special, everybody has their thing. And I think when we're using the term NPC, we understand exactly what we're talking about. And my whole thing today is giving you a couple of arguments as to why you need to assess who it is you're spending the majority of your time with. And if they are, in fact, NPC-ish, NPC-like, NPCs in actuality, and what the cost is for surrounding yourself with people like that. But before I get into it, let's see what's going on here in the comments. Jesse, what's up? Felix Mendez. Hola, ¿cómo está, amigo? What's up, brother man? Good to see you. Aaron, good to see you. Dawn Allen, good to see you. And Corey, good afternoon, my friend. All right. So a couple of things. I made a list about why surrounding yourself with these type of NPCs is not a good thing. Big Phil, what's up? I see you there. And we're going to start off with the limited exposure to diverse perspectives. Limited exposure to diverse perspectives. Here's the thing. When you are surrounded by people who are not engaging the opportunities and the adventures that life provides or lays at our feet, exactly how valuable can their perspective on anything that you share with them be? When you're surrounded by people who are risk averse, who are just trying to sort of, their life's goal is to regress to the mean, right? They don't want to make any waves. They don't want to rock the boat. They don't want to potentially have somebody not like them. I would say they're delusional in a lot of these goals, but it's what this type of society provides, right? It's what it creates. They literally want to become the background, the characters of life's landscape. It's why, when I first heard the term NPC, it's like, holy shit, could this possibly be more perfect? Because they want to make themselves into characters that don't have to do the hero shit, that aren't the targets of the villains. They just want to be in the background doing their thing. And they design their entire lives to be that way. So if you're surrounding yourself with somebody like that, what type of viewpoints, perspectives are they providing? What is it that they're giving to you that's going to help you think more creatively or solve, the problems that you happen to be facing at any one given time? How do these people who are doing everything in their power to disappear in the background, how are they going to have value when those things are being discussed? Jamie, what's up, brother man? Good to see you. Echo chambers. Another thing about people who do not want to rock the boat, if you're somebody who is dictating where the boat's supposed to go, they will, without any independent feedback or thought, they will echo whatever it is that you say. You know, when you see somebody who's surrounded by yes men, when we talk about somebody as being a yes man, what are they? They're people who are willing to sort of bypass their individual goals and missions to just put on a pedestal the association, the connection with somebody. I'll do whatever they want me to do so long as they stay with me. And it's a very weak, it's almost a tragic application of the potential of a human life. It's if you're somebody who is just there to echo somebody else. I've spoken before about the slave mindset and how slaves tend to sort of define themselves as reflections or echoes of other people. And even if somebody is, you know, a hater, they're defining themselves as the antithesis of who we are, right? And there's a cost to that when you're that individual. But back to the NPC, you know, archetype, like they're going to say whatever you want them to say. And again, it begs the question, do you want to surround yourself with people that are just going to agree with you? How the fuck are you supposed to learn anything? How are you supposed to keep yourself honest if every single time you put a vibe out to your people expecting some sort of productive feedback, they got nothing for you? They're like, yeah, absolutely. Whatever you say, that's what it is. All right. There's just a limitation to it. And this limitation that we need to understand is in who they are. It's not the exchange itself. It's not, well, I asked them this one thing and I really didn't like, you know, the feedback that he gave me. Well, if that person falls under this NPC category, they can't help themselves. They're always going to give you that. It might just be sometimes you want people to yes you to death, and somehow you value those people in those times. But when there's something where maybe you're not so insecure and you actually would appreciate some positive feedback, even if it goes against the grain, they offer you, you know, just that echo chamber again, and suddenly it's an issue. You got to ask yourself: is it just this one instance that they're acting like this, or is it who you decided to surround yourself with? These are things that you got to sort of figure out for yourself, right? Terrytown Vibe, what's going on, brother man? So the constructive feedback that you get from people that are around you, you know, the way I use it, I'm surrounded by, you know, my tribe, my family. I'm surrounded by coaching students, people who are in my programs that I deal with on a regular basis. All of these people represent identities that are not mine, right? So there is an inherent offset. And engaging individuals that are not you is going to stimulate the creative potential of our brain. We're able to design things from scratch when stimulated by other identities in some fashion through engaging these other things. So understand, if you're surrounding yourself with people who are so normie that they don't want you to see anything that could be interpreted potentially as conflict, how is it that you are ever going to get something new out of that relationship, that alliance? You know, I know that there are people who, like, I have family, and I would say they're extended family. I don't see these fucking people, but, you know, everyone's on social media, right? And you'll see them doing the most normie shit. They are, you know, with their family. You know, one year they're with their family at Disney World. Everybody's happy. You know, they take the picture with the fucking castle. And then a year later, you hear the rumblings that, oh, yeah, they're getting divorced. It's like, I would have told you fucking 5 years ago they were going to wind up divorced because they're fucking miserable. And they think the actual mission in life is just trying to be normal, just regress to the mean, do what everybody says we're supposed to do, and everything's going to work out, right? No, not at all. There's no authenticity in these people. See, and that's one of the things that you got to realize when you're surrounded by people who are NPCs. These are people who reject their individual identities. So what do they replace it with? They replace it with something that's artificial in nature. There are people who think they're not a good dad if they don't bring their kids to Disney World. How fucking retarded can you be as an individual if you're defining your value as the man who is raising this child in some way being influenced by whether or not you bring him to this commercial fucking entertainment park? It's just ridiculousness. And the delusion that people collectively agree to share is nauseating to me. And I don't know if it's how I was raised, my experiences, the temperament, just the recipe of me, whatever it is. I've always looked at these things and just asked myself, why the fuck are these people so eager to fit in all the time? And I would just see people sacrifice who they were just to be able to be with people. In later years, I would interpret that as really a commentary on how little of a relationship with themselves they had. So when you get these NPCs, these people that want to disappear in the background, understand it's somebody else's background that they're trying to disappear in. It's not their own background. That wouldn't make sense. They just want to be accepted by as many people as possible because they think that is what success feels like. I don't know who it was, someone way back when, said, the person who doesn't, some people don't like to be by themselves because they don't enjoy the company, something to that effect. And that is certainly what I observe in these people who would label NPCs. These people just want to get approval from people they don't know, for people who have no skin in the game of them being successful, surviving. When they're at their lowest depths, they surround themselves with people that just, don't want to be around people, something real's going on with, and it's just such a weak, fragile way to be, right? Let's see some comments here. Aaron, what's up, darling? What is she saying? Some people get so mad when they get a reality check, too. The ones who come back after a few months and say, you were right. Oh, man, if I had a fucking dollar for every person that was like that with me. And I will say, in those people's defense, a lot of them don't come back, right? They're too proud to come and admit that I was right and things that I've told them. The nature of my personality, if any of you guys have ever met me in the real world, you could, you could check this box that I'm about to put out there. Like, I'm not somebody that really beats around the bush. I'm not somebody that is going to not say the thing that might make somebody uncomfortable if I feel it needs to be said. I don't want to just make people feel uncomfortable, but if there's somebody that needs to hear something that I have available to say, sometimes I sort of feel this compulsion to do that, right? And it doesn't always make for the most comfortable social settings, depending on how and when I do it, but I'm somebody who just wants to be authentic. Sometimes you see people who they get some sort of feedback from me and they didn't like it. They didn't like, they didn't ask me to look in that mirror, right? And yet I put that mirror in front of them. They didn't want to see it and they take it out on me. And at some point it reveals itself to be true. And they don't want to give me credit as if I want credit. I don't fucking need credit. I got shit going on. Like I don't need to concern myself with people that came and went. But I will say, as a formula from the individual's perspective, if you can't look in the mirror and get some positive feedback as to what's going on in your life, like, holy shit, you are limiting your ability to succeed to what it is that you can see. Never mind the blind spots and the biases and all the things that disconnect you from the reality that you're in the middle of. You just think that, no, this is good enough. This is good enough. It's like trying to drive a car like with a fucking telescope or something, right? Where what you're seeing is so limited with the job that you need to do. It's like, yeah, you're just setting yourself up to fail. And a lot of these NPCs, that's the great irony of it. They try to fit themselves into their environment so seamlessly. They never develop who they are at an individual level. So when life comes knocking in the form of some kind of adversity, they have absolutely no integrity of self to be able to withstand it. I've been married almost 20 years. My wife and I, we don't always get along. It's like we've been married almost 20 years. There are going to be fights. There are going to be arguments. But we're strong enough to be able to move past it because we've done the work necessary to be authentic with one another. NPCs don't want to do that. It's like, no, you can't talk about the bad stuff. Well, here's the thing. People say, don't talk about politics. Don't talk about, anything controversial, just don't talk about that. Religion, politics is the big thing, but don't. And it's like, okay, if you want to just maybe build a bridge, build a rapport with somebody, you want to sort of put your best foot forward. There's a reason why, ladies wear makeup and men, they look a certain way, presentable. So there is this understanding that, yeah, we want to give a good first impression. We don't want to be judged by our offset with the individual. Let's discover how much we have in common at first. But there is a point where if we never get to that stuff, there's a limitation. You're swimming for the rest of your life in a 3-foot pool. There is no depth of a relationship you build with somebody without exploring those things. And when you go to explore those depths in an alliance, in a relationship, you need to be able to swim. And what that is having the integrity of understanding who you are, that you don't take offense to everything. You're not vulnerable to everything. That's how you build these strong relationships. You guys can have a significant amount of offset, but because you understand who you are so completely, you could still find a great relationship in the overlap. It's not something the NPCs want to surround themselves with. It's not something they want to do. Aaron says, it's like being surrounded by a nice, loving mom. Your art is lovely, dear. No, it's ketchup on paper. Right. And the mom's job is to nurture. So you want people, who are mothers to be nurturers. But when you're talking about somebody who's in the role of an ally, somebody supposed to help you navigate, the world and all the adversity that throws in your way, you don't want somebody that says everything that you do is right, because it's not the truth. It's not the truth. One could say learning something is the art of learning how to not do it properly long enough that, how you do it overshadows, how you do it correctly overshadows how you do it incorrectly. The quick example for me is jujitsu, where in the beginning, it's like, yeah, you got to learn how to do a lot of things incorrectly. Eventually, you start thinking in the way that's correct, but it's almost by process of elimination. You're programming your subconscious over time. I cannot teach somebody one time in every single aspect or lesson in jiu-jitsu, and now they got it. It's a relationship that needs to be built. While they're building that relationship, they need to have the strength of identity that they can withstand the offset. People need to be able to hear that they got something wrong and not feel threatened at an existential level because of it, right? Cherry Town Vaughn says, the NPC dad. Yeah, I had that. His shtick was, I gave y'all everything, private school clothes and anything material. Then I got older and found out he taught me nothing useful. Well, that's what winds up happening. You wind up like, I'll use a martial arts analogy again. Like, I know people who spent years, decades of their life training in some martial art and found out they couldn't fight. And some of them like, well, it's not about that. It's about all the, it's like, oh yeah. All right. It's about all, yeah, it's about that now, because what fucking choice do you have? You can't fucking fight. It better be about fucking indomitable spirit or some shit, because you can't fight your way out of a fucking wet paper bag. So the thing is, if you're trying to actually be successful, there needs to be utility in what you're installing. The NPC guy, he already has the sort of predetermined list of things. You do these things and we're successful, without any consideration for what is actually working in the real world from day to day. How do you have a real conversation with somebody? It's hard if you don't know who you are. It's hard if you just want to agree with everything the other person's saying. You guys remember that the movie, the Eddie Murphy movie, Coming to America? He's the prince, right? And he's given this wife, this predetermined, marriage. They're going to whatever, the fixed thing. He meets the girl. He tells her to bark like a dog. She sits there barking. And the whole premise of the movie is he didn't want that. She was an NPC. She was a non-playable character, right? That's who they offered him. And he wanted somebody who had an individual personality, an individual identity. That was the premise of the whole movie, right? And where do you find a woman fit for a king? Queens, right? That was a line from that movie. So the idea is, yeah, you don't want to surround yourself with people who do nothing but try to hide who they are. And they think that is an investment in a relationship. We'll be really, really good friends if I could do my best to not show them who I am that's offset from who they are. Like, that's not how relationships are built. Certainly not anything that that you could do, right? Aaron says, quick question. Does anyone besides me and Jamie comment on Facebook? I always have it set to live chat. I will say the majority of people that watch, Aaron, are either on another Facebook channel or they're on YouTube. So I would say YouTube is probably where the majority of people are that watch these things, right? Or watch these things and comment, right? Because that's usually what I see. I see a total people who are watching at any one given time, but the comments, they reveal, where they are when they post it, right? So sometimes you'll hear me, refer to somebody who left a quote. You'll see me bring it up on a screen, but you're like, I don't see that thing because it's probably on one of those other platforms, right? So another thing, let's talk about networking opportunities. How is it that you're going to make any value in having connections, right? Because there's a difference between having friends and having connections. Connections, the implication is there is a larger network that you have access to. That's not to say that your friends need to have some sort of, value that you could, measure in the real world that transcends their friendship itself. But what I am saying is when you have an NPC, you don't even have the network of their identity to connect with. So you surround yourself with people who are yes men. Like, think about yes men. You take some celebrity who's surrounded by a bunch of yes men. They're not adding any value to that individual's life. They're not going to go against the grain. They're not going to do anything to jeopardize their connection to the celebrity. So there's going to be sometimes they don't have the freedom to be who they are. They have to conform to what they think is going to give them the outcome where they're still connected. So when it comes to how do you make connections with people, well, number one, they need to be their own person. Because if they're whatever you need them to be, then why would they have anything that you would need beyond them? Right? It's just, it doesn't make any sense. There's so many things in life right now that a couple of years ago when COVID hit, we got to see who people were, right? All of these facades that were presented on social media and in real life with some people, these facades of, oh, I'm so accomplished and we're so happy and my life's so great. And all of a sudden they got a little bit of pressure and they all fucking melted. I know people in my family, I spoke about this before, who disallowed other members of the family to show up at holiday events. Ironically, because they weren't vaccinated or something, or they had COVID before. And these are intelligent people. These are professional people. These are people who make a couple $100,000 a year. In some cases, they live in these big houses. These aren't just fucking idiots, that are just running in the walls of life here and there. Like, these are people that otherwise you would say, all right, functional member of society. Little bit of pressure, they're all fucking NPCs. They all reveal the NPC fucking identity. It's like that, what was that 80s TV show V? The lizard people. It's like you had lizards under this fake thing. It's like they're all melted. They're all instead of lizards, they're all these NPCs, these faceless fucking automatons, just trying to stay out of everybody's way. It's just, it was pathetic then. It's pathetic now. And you have people who are still living their lives right now thinking like, yeah, I can go back to that. I'm a advocate for, a champion for the individual. Be yourself. Be authentically yourself. Be honest with yourself. Find those flaws that you possess in who you are and endeavor to build them. And then allow who you are becoming to attract the connections you make along the way. But there's always context in who you're connecting with. There's purpose, there's utility, there's value then. To connect with people just because of their proximity or just because they make you feel like you don't do anything wrong. We just got to understand the limitation of that. I know there were people like during COVID who were just doing everything that the authorities told them to do. When in their hearts, they knew it was wrong. They knew they should not be listening to these people, but it would be the first time that they didn't follow what the experts said, what the bosses said. And they just didn't have the integrity of self to be able to say, no, I'm not going to do it. I can't relate to those people. I can't relate to being the person who's trying to get along with everybody. I just can't do that. Now, my deficiencies growing up were I was the opposite. I was trying to get along with nobody. Not a good formula either. Remember, loners are losers. So the idea that tribe matters, it's like, yeah, that's a thing. That's a thing that's based in our history, that's based in our reality today. Who are you surrounding yourself with? Are they looking to engage the game the way you are? And not everybody is. Comment from Aaron. A couple years ago, 4 already. I remember the beginning of it shortly after my daughter was born, still seeing people wear masks fairly regularly and backing off when someone gets too close. It's a, there's this notion, I've spoken about this before, where, everybody has the right, if they want to wear a mask, that's fine. Yeah, absolutely. And I can call them fucking retards. I have that right too. I have the right. Well, this is America, right? We have freedom of speech. If I want to call you a fucking retard, I'll call you a retard. The thing is, we have to shame these people. We have to mock these people because this is the NPC world. Understand, if you're one of the architects of this aquarium, right? All of the people who are designing the landscape that we're all living in. Obviously, it's not it's not rocket science to deduce that it would be much easier for them if we all devolved into these NPC-like caricatures. It's just easy if the new thing comes out during the holidays and everybody's online to buy the new thing. Why are you trying to buy that? Because this is the new thing. But do you need it? Everybody needs the new thing. Like, this is how people think. This is how effectively they're programmed. And if we're not, as just a matter of principle, revisiting regularly our premises, the premises of our philosophy, it's like you will find yourself led before you ever realize it. You'll find yourself manipulated before you realize it. I've trained in manipulation. I've trained in influence. I've trained in sales. I remember a couple of years ago, shit, it's got to be 10, 15 years ago at this point. I had to meet somebody to make a sale, right? And I was making this sale, and it was a high ticket sale. And this is back in the MySpace days. And I had to meet this guy to sit down. We're going to talk about this offer in the business that I was in. I'm leaving a couple of details out on purpose. But it was about a $10,000 deal that I had to make. And I looked on his MySpace page, right? Because I know exactly who I'm sitting down with before I do. It's just responsible salesmanship. And I saw that he was a obsessive Knicks fan, New York Knicks basketball team. Before our meeting, I went and bought a Knicks jersey. And I wore the Knicks jersey in the meeting. He wound up doing what, he wound up paying for the offer and doing it. We never mentioned the Knicks. But I've absolutely know that me wearing that added to the rapport and the overlap that he perceived us to have. And it was by design. And before anybody gets their panties in a bunch, it's the same thing. Different application, but same thing when we wear a suit to a meeting, right? You ever go before the judge? Lawyer tells you, wear a suit. Why? It's like I'm going before the judge to determine whether or not I'm guilty for shitting in the 7-Eleven. But you go to court, wear a suit. Let them think you passed all that. Like, you wear a suit now. Like, everything's about trying to control the controllable. I happened to research that this guy loved the Knicks. I went and bought a Knicks shirt. I never wore it again, the shirt, because I'm fucking wearing Knicks shirts. But I guarantee he's in me. It's like, you got a friend in me. It's like, that's the song he heard when he walked into that room. If you're somebody who doesn't know who you are, you will be manipulated. Because it's like, success to the NPC mind isn't the achievement of something. It's the consistency of something. It's the, if I could do this every day, I'm winning. If nothing changes, I don't take any chances. I go along to get along. Like, I'm safe. And you are safe in one of the most miserable fucking existences you could design. Right up until you're not safe. And you have none of the tools that will equip you to be able to get through whatever adversity presents itself. It's a very limited way to be. So we're obviously not like that. If you guys are listening to me, you're just as fucking crazy as I am, probably. But I'm going to ask you, who are the people you surround yourself with? And I'm not saying, listen, just ditch all your old friends. Like, fuck these people. Like, I'm not saying not to do that either. But in the real world, you know, speaking somewhat pragmatically, what does this look like if we're looking to move away from these NPC-like alliances? We start pressuring people. We start putting a little heat on them. We start setting the criteria. We start giving them a way to win that might not feel so comfortable. And we could sit there and hope all we want that they actually do what's necessary to stay connected. But if they don't, then they self-selected. And you had never done anything to tell them what to do. It's like, hey, you want to do this? This is what you got to do. I once had an employee who smoked weed. And I didn't want any of my employees smoking weed. I don't smoke weed. I don't want anybody here smoking weed. He told me, he said, well, you know, what I do in my off time is none of your business. I said, absolutely. You're absolutely right. But you come in here smoking like weed, so it is my business. So either stop smoking weed or tell me you've stopped smoking weed, continue to smoke weed, and just make sure that I never get any idea that you have. It's like, or just don't work here. I'm not telling you better. It's like, no, in order to work here, you can't smoke weed. You can do whatever the fuck you want. So when you set the criteria, you start to add a little bit of pressure to get these people moving in a way that you're moving. Because that's the only way they're going to stay connected anyway. I've had plenty of students over the years that different phases of my individual professional life, my competitive life when I was competing in jiu-jitsu tournaments and MMA and stuff. Like, there are some people who've been there since almost day one. Some people who came and went at different chapters of my development, because that one chapter that I was in, that was the one that they resonated with. But as soon as I moved on to the next one, they were like, no, I'm not in it for that. And they wound up going. I can't tell them what to do. I could set the criteria for the alliance. All right. So that's everything I wanted to go over. Big Chad, what's up, brother man? Good to see you. Haven't seen you in a while. Good to see your face. Tell the missus I said hello. Happy holidays and all that good stuff. All right, guys. That was what I wanted to get out, what I wanted to share. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I got a little fired up. I enjoyed it too. Check the description. A bunch of stuff, good stuff going on. If you're an entrepreneur and you want to be around like-minded men, check out the Three Roads Tribe. All the links are down in the descriptions. We're doing good things, encouraging people to not only become entrepreneurs, but become better ones. It's one of the things I love doing the most, and a lot of people are having a good time doing it with me, and I appreciate it. All right, guys, I appreciate you for spending this time. I don't take that for granted. Definitely not entitled to anybody's time, and appreciate and I'm grateful for every minute you give me hanging out with me during this talk, and I will be here next week. So as always, brothers and sisters, pressure to power.